Hey guys, and welcome to Captain Charlemagne's Models. I'm your Captain Charlemagne, so let's head over to the bench and see what we're doing for today's project.
Hello everyone, and welcome back. So, today we are looking at the special video that you all voted for that was following the Napoleon. And surprisingly, in the 2 weeks that the vote went on, this very ship never left first place. This is the 1 in 350 Iron Shipwrights HMS Invincible. And oh boy, I was actually shocked when that voting was happening. I actually thought that it was going to be Scharnhorst that people were going to want to see. But no, it was Admiral Fisher's very first battlecruiser. So, as stated before, this is an Iron Shipwrights kit. Its scale is 1 in 350 and its kit number is 4077. The kit retails, once you count in shipping, $326. And let's give a little bit of history. So, HMS Invincible is the very first battlecruiser. Although originally at the time of her construction she was called a dreadnought armored cruiser. The reason for this is because many believed it was a copy of the dreadnought concept, where it'd be a uniform main battery. And since at the time armored cruisers used a mix of guns, with the largest being a 9.2 inch, many people believed that a dreadnought armored cruiser, especially in Royal Navy service, would be armed with 9.2 inch guns. And as a result, the Germans built the Blucher, but that was not true. The British had been very secretive when it came to building the Invincible, much as had they been doing with Dreadnought. And instead of putting 9.2 inch guns, they in fact put battleship grade guns, 12-inch guns, on the Invincible. Now, HMS Invincible had quite the career during World War I. She fought at the Battle of the Falklands, where she and her sister, I believe it was Inflexible, sank the German flotilla under Admiral von Spee, sinking pretty much all the ships there except for one, and that ship got interred. She was the head of, I believe it is 3rd Battlecruiser Squadron, and was under the command of Rear Admiral Hood. I forget his first name. I think it's Horace Hood. But she would be with the Grand Fleet undergoing gunnery trials at Scapa Flow along with her sisters, and because of this, 5th Battle Squadron, which comprised the Queen Elizabeth, would be with Beatty and his battlecruiser fleet on the day of the fleet sailing out for the Battle of Jutland. When Invincible arrived, the gunnery training at Scapa showed, as she laid down a royal beatdown on the SMS Lutzow, eventually resulting in Lutzow sinking later on. So the first battlecruiser had sunk the newest battlecruiser there. However, she would be lost when, I believe there was smoke or haze in the way cleared, and she came under fire of the German guns. They penetrated her armor, and it set off the ammunition magazines, causing the ship to explode. As she was sinking, her back broke, and there's actually a very almost odd, I would say, even ominous photo of the two halves of her hull, the bow and stern, sticking up out of the water as she sank. There is a documentary called Jutland, Clash of the Dreadnoughts, and it does talk about the wreck, and in fact shows one of the Invincible's guns still defiantly pointing towards the enemy. There have been numerous dives on the wreck, I believe, and there is footage. HMS Invincible is a designated war grave, and well, with that bit of history out of the way, let's go ahead and we are going to open up the box. So let's get this open, and of course, upon opening, what we get is packing bubbles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily stop, and then I'll come back after I get rid of all these packing bubbles. So be back with you guys here. All right, and I am back. So this is the hull of the HMS Invincible. It is molded in white resin, and it's not badly detailed. There is some what seems to be flash in certain places. Let me get my tweezers real quick. So like here in these corners here, there is flash. But aside from there, it's not bad. The bottom will need to be fixed up. This is actually something to expect when dealing with these kits, and there will have to be some modifications done. These kits, I will come out on a limb and just point it out, are not for the faint of heart. There is a lot of work that has to go into making them look good, but if you stick it out, it can become a very beautiful kit. Once things such as primer go down, more detail will be able to come out. It'll also get rid of this splotching here at the front of the hull. But all in all, for what we have, it is very detailed. Now I do want to come out on a limb. You can still feel the release stuff that they use for the kit, so this is definitely going to need bead wash. This kit is supposed to be of Invincible in 1914. And in 1914, the thing about the Invincible is she still had her torpedo net boons, I believe they're called. And as such, in fact, you can see it. I believe this is what this here is. Sitting at the edge of her hull on both sides is where the torpedo net boons are. So that might come in handy for when we add on those. I was kind of worried at first, because I have heard, for example, they do a kit on the Queen Mary. However, the kit on the Queen Mary is effectively around the same time period, except it does not have its torpedo net boons, which is odd. So that's good to know. There won't be massive need for any kind of modifications to the hull, except for possibly cleaning up where all this leftover resin is. So we're going to move the hull off screen for just a moment and show you what else we get with the kit. So of course, being a resin kit, we of course do have resin pieces, and sadly, for it being resin, they are kind of bent. In this bag, of course, you have her superstructure piece, what seems to be her lifeboat davits, as well as lifeboats and possibly, okay, and there's also her star for her mainmast. Good bit of stuff in here. Depending on how this stuff looks after it comes out of the bag will depend on if I do possibly either try and scratch build a replacement pieces, or if I use parts from my 1915 HMS Dreadnought kit to replace them. So next baggie, you have all three of her funnels, and you have her twin 12-inch. And I got to admit, these 12-inch guns, let me see if I can't get a bit closer to the camera, let it try and focus in on the 12-inch, is if you can see it, just how detailed that 12-inch gun is. I may not need to resort to raiding too much from the Dreadnought kit. I was actually thinking I was going to end up having to raid her guns. In this case, I may only have to resort to raiding her barrels. But at the same time, may not have to. So next bag, of course, you have more photo etch. This thing comprises her gun barrels, and yeah, this is just a mess. This is just a hodgepodge royal mess. This, however, while also a mess, is much easier to figure out what all is here. You see, Iron Shipwrights has gotten into 3D printing, and as such, it's easier to figure out what all is in the bag. So of course you do have lifeboats, and you have, what's that? Her torpedo net booms. You of course also have her 12-inch guns. You have her davits, and you also have her secondary guns, and then the lighter guns for destroyers, I guess. So that's actually something I'm happy Iron Shipwrights took the time and effort to actually get into, instead of, well, having to quite literally fight with all that resin. So next up, out of the bag, of course, we have several other replacement parts. I see pieces of superstructure. I see what looks like some deck mounted parts. Perhaps maybe even a few more lifeboat booms. So that bag's gonna be more having to try and hunt through to figure out what we get. And of course, it would not be an Iron Shipwrights kit if you did not get photo etch. So in this case, you get 3 bags, each with photo etch. So one bag carries some davits, her funnel caps, ladders, some parts for her masts, and some railing. Next sprue is of, I forgot how bright this stuff can usually be, especially when light hits it. So you have more ladders, and you have what seems to be more railing. Although I think this isn't actually railing, I think this is actually rigging, not railing. And then finally, you get another photo etch fret, comprising more ladders, some, what I'm guessing is some superstructure parts, railings, and I want to say a few more pieces of rigging. So all in all, the Invincible has quite the number of things going for it. So, of course, it would not be a model kit without this, the instruction manual. So, of course, you get a nice little black and white photo of the Invincible. You have its model number, its scale, its name. Okay, so this kit is actually her in 1916. But according to the internet, it's her in her 1914 form. Interesting. You get a little thank you note from the guys that work at Iron Shipwrights. Thank you for choosing a Commander's model product. We strive to produce the best kits possible. If you find you need any parts replaced for this or any Commander model kit, please feel free to contact us by email at ironshipwrights@bellsouth.net or write to Commander Models Inc., 500 Dry Valley Road, apartment D305, Cooksville, Tennessee 38506. So that's nice of them to say. So I've talked to the gentleman before when I bought a kit of, I believe it was the Boston, because it was not coming in. It didn't come in when it should have, and I contacted them, and they were very kind gentlemen to speak with me, and so I have very good experience with them. Of course, you have the please be sure to include the kit name, stock number, part needed, and the return address. So that's definitely important. Just don't write saying I'm missing a piece. Tell them what piece you're missing. So then you have your normal instructions telling you that before you start the kit, you should review the instructions and examine the parts. Do not remove any of the etching brass parts if included until you are ready to attach them to the model. Yeah, so don't do what I do and just take it off, see if it fits. It doesn't, stick it on the desk and then forget about it, because that's one sure way to lose a piece to the carpet monster. Standard plastic model glue will not work with resin and brass parts. We recommend using CA super glue or 2-part epoxy to assemble the kit. So of course, super glue, that's definitely important. Personally, I use a Instant Cure Plus super glue. I also use Gorilla Glue for mine. So, but everybody has their own types of CA they like to use. So follow whatever method you would like to do, and yeah. Some parts may have casting blocks or small nubs of resin remaining from casting. If you find any, please carefully remove them before attaching part. Be sure to test fit all parts prior to assembly. Yes, so like I showed you before, at the bottom of the Invincible there is going to be some stuff left over from the casting. And of course, there's the last bit of thing telling you about contacting them of any of the mentioned ways, or if you have comments for this kit, then of course feel free to contact them. Flip the page, and of course you get some statistics for the Invincible. So, class, Invincible, of course, she's the name ship. Laid down April 1906 and completed in March 1909. So, 2 years from being laid down to commissioning, or would that be launch? She was 560 feet at the waterline and 567 feet overall. She had a beam of 78 feet and 9 inches, a draft of 26 feet 8 inches, a displacement of 17,420 tons, 20,135 tons fully loaded, so she a heavy girl. A speed of 25 knots on 4 shaft Parson turbines, going with 41,000 shaft horsepower. So not only is she a big girl, she's a fast girl. She had a armor belt of 6 to 4 inch belt, 7 inches on the barbette, 7-inch turret faces, 2.5 to 1 inch decks, and a complement of 780 to 800. She was armed with 8 12-inch 45 caliber guns in 4 twin turrets, 2 mounted forward and 2 in wing turrets. She had 16 4-inch guns in 16 single mounts, and she had 5 18-inch torpedo tubes. I wonder if those are underwater mounted tubes, or are they on deck mounted tubes? That's definitely something to look at. Of course, you'd later get a little bit more history on her, telling us pretty much what we already discussed. Talks about how to gain the cruiser grade speed, she had to sacrifice armor. Mentions a number of battles she took place in, such as Battle of the Falklands, Battle of Helgam Light, the sinking of Graf Spee, and Battle of Jutland. During this epic sea battle, SMS De Flinger and Lutzow sank Invincible after she initially inflicted damage on Lutzow, which would eventually lead to Lutzow sinking, because I believe those hits hit her under the water in her torpedo flats. She sank with over 1,000 hands aboard. Her sisters survived the war and were later scrapped in 1921. So, a little bit of good history. Next up is your index, part index. So telling you what all parts you have, what their numbers are, so that's nice of them. So for example, her 12-inch guns are part 2. Her boat deck is 13. What I'm guessing is her masts are 17, 18, 19, and 29. Just all examples. So when you're hunting through pieces, this is usually the sheet you need to go to. Because of the casting and flash on some of the pieces, it'll be probably a little harder to figure out the piece, especially if, because of the casting and flash, it's harder to realize what exactly that piece is. So scratching or some kind of replacement part is definitely going to be needed for some of these parts. So turn it over again, and of course it's pretty much this sheet we just went over, except it's telling you exactly what each of those parts are. So next up is your assembly guide. The first step they'll have us do, according to this, oops, sorry, no it is not. It's on your photo etch, and it seems I was right. This is on some of those sheets actual rigging. So you'll be able to do the rigging that appeared on the Invincible instead of having to curse like a sailor and fight to put that rigging on. So that was very nice of them to include that in this kit. So we're going to flip, and your first step is your forward bridge. So you have all the stuff here, and then it's showing you how to assemble the bridge. Now this is actually, in my opinion, new. I don't have my Armored Cruiser New York's instruction manual anymore, but I can tell you the older Iron Shipwrights instruction manual was a pain in the butt to understand. It made Dragon model kits instructions look easy to understand, and that is saying something, because Dragon models have a habit, in my opinion, of being very difficult to understand. So, like I said, this is wonderful in my opinion. So you have each piece here. It's letters for the photo etch fret, where each piece goes. This, of course, is showing you the forward bridge. So we're going to get the Invincible real quick, and we're gonna bring her here real quick for you all to see. So this piece here, I know some of you probably aren't happy that I'm treating you like you don't know how to build models, but of course it goes for this stuff here. So this is definitely going to be something to look forward to, in my opinion. Just this whole new experience with these new instructions are definitely going to be interesting to look forward to. And of course, like I said, it mentions this here. Symbol as shown, resin parts are indicated by number, etch parts are indicated by letters. So we're going to flip the page again. You have what I'm guessing is another, so this is for the rear bridge section and her mainmast, I believe, showing you how to do that. Of course, it talks about her guns. This section here for her shafts. Of course, you have how to set up some stuff here around the deck, such as her boats. And of course, K, so right here on the corners. Which might need be added. So all in all, just making sure I didn't miss anything. This instruction manual ain't very large. It seems like they covered everything in pretty much what's just 2 pages. The instruction manual only has what looks to be 2 pages of actual instructions, and then a little bit for her rigging. Aside from that, it's all pretty much what seems to be statistics. So that's definitely something new. You'd expect for a resin model to be more on their parts, but it seems that it isn't. So with that, let's bring Invincible back to the deck. So with that, that's going to conclude what we're looking at today for HMS Invincible. The next episode, we will be looking at the Dreadnought detailed upset that I'm going to be using for the Invincible. The reason why is, well, I have 2 of them. The reason why I'm going to be using that one is because that one is of the wrong date for the Dreadnought. The Pontos kit I got that I'll be adding details from is, of course, of Dreadnought in 1907, but it will still come in handy for what we'll be doing. So yes, I'd like to thank you all for joining me today on this look of HMS Invincible. In the next episode, we will be looking at some of the detailed up parts that will be included in the Invincible kit, that will be included on the Invincible. I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. I hope you have a nice day. I hope you have a nice week. And I look forward to doing this model with you all. Hope you all have a nice day. And this has been Captain Charlemagne, and I'm signing off. Ta-ta, everyone.